guys, tonight we are stepping into a world of shoulder pads, 60-hour work weeks, and the genuinely held belief that sleep was for the weak. 1980s America, where overwork was not a warning sign, it was a personality. Before we begin, a huge and sincere thank you to the viewer who suggested tonight's topic. Your ideas really do shape what happens here. And this whole thing only grows because of the thoughtful suggestions you keep sending my way. So, if you enjoy these late night journeys, feel free to like the video and subscribe. And if you would rather drift off with just your ears, everything is now on Spotify too, with the link waiting for you down in the description. And for anyone who wants an even deeper night of rest, to pull you back from the edge of sleep. Just one long, unbroken stretch of calm to carry you all the way through till morning. Now dim the light, get comfortable and loosen that imaginary power tie before it cuts off circulation to your dreams. Let us pause for a moment. Have you ever wondered what it actually felt like to worship your job? Did people really carry 2 phones, a pager, and a briefcase the size of a small refrigerator? Was there truly a time when bragging about only sleeping 4 hours made you cool instead of concerning? Could you survive a decade where lunch was a competitive sport and vacation was treated like a moral failing? Would you last a single Monday in a world where your worth was measured in billable hours and your boss sincerely believed weekends were optional? And now, congratulations. You have just woken up in 1984. Your alarm is screaming. Your suit has shoulder pads wider than your doorway, and you are already somehow running late. Good luck. Let us start where every glorious day of 1980s productivity began. The brutal screaming assault of an alarm clock at 5 in the morning. There is no gentle sunrise here, no bird song, no soothing playlist to ease you into consciousness. Just a plastic box on your nightstand, shrieking like it has a personal grudge against your happiness. You slap it silent, swing your legs out of bed, and remind yourself of the decade's favorite lie. The early bird gets the promotion. Somewhere out there, a man in a suit is already jogging, already on his second coffee, already winning, and you refuse to be the person who slept in until 6, like some kind of quitter. The alarm clock itself is a marvel of mild cruelty. It might be a clock radio glowing with angry red numbers, or one of those wind-up torture devices with 2 little bells on top that sound like a fire truck driving directly through your skull. There is no snooze button worth trusting, because trusting the snooze button is the first step toward mediocrity. And mediocrity, you have been told repeatedly, is death. So you rise, your feet hit the carpet, which is probably some shade of brown or burnt orange, and you stand there for a moment in the dark, wondering why you feel like you were hit by a truck. The answer is simple. You went to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning after finishing a report nobody asked for. This is the great unspoken math of the era. Sleep is treated not as a biological necessity, but as a personal weakness, a luxury for people who lack ambition. You have heard the phrase tossed around at the office like, "You can sleep when you are dead." Everyone says it with a proud little grin, as though running on 4 hours of rest were a competitive sport rather than a slow-motion medical emergency. It is a bit like bragging that you never change the oil in your car. Sure, it runs for now, but something expensive is quietly grinding itself to dust under the hood. You stumble toward the bathroom and flick on a light bright enough to interrogate a suspect. There in the mirror is the face of a warrior. Assuming warriors have puffy eyes and the complexion of week-old oatmeal. But no matter. A splash of cold water, a mumbled affirmation, and you are ready to seize the day. Mostly because the day has already grabbed you by the collar and started dragging. The truly wild part is that you believe this makes you special. You imagine yourself as one of the disciplined few, the chosen rises while the lazy masses slumber away their potential. In reality, half the city is doing the exact same thing, standing in identical bathrooms, muttering identical nonsense, all convinced they alone have cracked the secret code to success. Inanan, inanan, ina, 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 but inanan, inana, do, has not fully switched on yet. Ever tried to feel superior while yawning so hard your jaw pops? It is not easy, but you manage. You tell yourself the exhaustion is temporary, a small toll on the road to greatness. You do not yet understand that the road has no exit and the toll collectors accept only more of your sleep. So you square your shoulders, or you will once the shoulder pads are on, and prepare to face the morning. And somewhere deep down a very quiet voice suggests that perhaps 6 of the clock in the morning would not have killed you. You silence it immediately. Now that you are vertical and vaguely awake, it is time to armor up. Because in 1980s corporate America, you did not get dressed. You suited up for war. You reached for the power suit, a garment engineered less for comfort and more for intimidation. The shoulder pads are enormous, wide enough to knock over a coworker in a narrow hallway. The idea is simple. The bigger your shoulders, the more powerful you look, which is why half the office resembles a fleet of very serious refrigerators. You knot your tie into a perfect triangle, a small noose of ambition, and check yourself in the mirror. You look ready to close a deal, fire someone, or both before lunch. The suit itself is a serious investment, possibly the most expensive thing you own that is not parked outside. The fabric is a wool blend that promises to breathe, but absolutely does not. So by midday, you will be quietly marinating inside it. The color palette is limited to varieties of gray, navy, and a brown so deep it borders on menacing. Pinstripes are acceptable and even encouraged because nothing says I control vast sums of money like looking faintly like a piece of ledger paper. You slide into the jacket and feel the shoulder pads settle onto you like a yoke, transforming your natural silhouette into something roughly the shape of a coat rack. Then comes the tie, that most sacred and pointless of garments. You loop it around your neck and wrestle it into a knot, adjusting it until it sits with just the right amount of aggressive precision. The tie serves no practical function whatsoever. It does not keep you warm, it does not hold anything closed, and it exists purely as a small fabric flag announcing that you take yourself extremely seriously. If you are feeling bold, it might be a shade of red, so loud it qualifies as a threat. The kind of tie that says, I will not be interrupted during this presentation. The whole ensemble is essentially medieval armor for the modern knight, except instead of protecting you from swords, it protects you from being taken lightly at a budget meeting. And like real armor, it is heavy, restrictive, and makes it nearly impossible to sit down comfortably. You cannot slouch in a power suit. The shoulder pad simply will not allow it. You are forced into a permanent posture of alertness, which is either excellent for your professional image or slowly destroying your spine, and possibly both. For the women navigating the same battlefield, the armor is just as fierce, sharp blazers, matching shoulder pads that could double as body armor, and a soft silk bow tied at the collar in a curious attempt to look approachable while wearing the equivalent of football gear. Everyone, regardless of gender, is dressed for combat. It is like a costume party where the theme is intimidating banker and attendance is mandatory 5 days a week. You give yourself one final look. The knot is straight, the shoulders are broad, the shoes are polished to a mirror shine that will be scuffed and ruined within the hour. You look, in a word, formidable. You also look deeply uncomfortable. But discomfort is the price of power, and you have decided the price is worth paying. Mostly because everyone around you has made the same questionable decision. So, you button the jacket, straighten to your full padded height, and stride out the door like a man going to battle. The battle, of course, is a series of phone calls and a stale bagel. But you do not know that yet. With your armor on, you might think it is time for a proper breakfast. Adorable. In the 1980s, breakfast was not a meal. It was a meeting, with food loosely involved. You do not sit at a kitchen table with your family. You sit in a hotel restaurant at 6:45 in the morning, across from a man named Chad, who wants to discuss quarterly projections while you both pretend to enjoy dry toast. The masters of the universe had been shown in a single afternoon that they were not masters of anything, that the ground beneath even the mightiest of them could open without warning. The glamour that had made all the frantic striving feel so intoxicating had dimmed ever so slightly, like a bright bulb beginning its long, slow fade. The 80s would keep going for a while yet. But the party's wildest hour had passed, and some part of everyone knew it, even if no one wanted to say so out loud. The music had stopped, and the room was just beginning to notice the silence. So, there you have it. You have survived a full day in 1980s America. Ines. You climbed a greased ladder toward a corner office, clutched your beeper like a leash you would fasten to yourself, and stayed at your desk long after the sun went down. Wearing your exhaustion like a medal, you gave the company your evenings, your weekends, and quite a bit of your health, and you did it all with a booming motivational voice cheering you on. It is easy to laugh at it now. The neon leotards and the brick-sized phones, the martini lunches, and the sincere belief that sleep was for the weak. And we should laugh gently because it really was a little ridiculous. But tea here is something worth honoring underneath all that frantic striving too. These were people chasing a dream of a better life, working themselves to the bone for their families, their futures, and the quiet hope that all the sacrifice would one day be worth it. The latchkey kids let themselves into empty houses, and the parents came home in the dark, and everyone believed sincerely that they were building something that would last. They were not entirely wrong, and they were not entirely right. And that is usually how it goes with the stories we tell ourselves about hard work. What they left behind was a lesson dressed up in shoulder pads. That ambition is a wonderful thing until it forgets to let you rest. And that a life spent entirely on the ladder is a life spent mostly climbing. So tonight, as you settle into your own bed with no beeper on your nightstand and no red-eye flight waiting for you at dawn, maybe spare a kind thought for those tired souls in their power suits running on 4 hours of sleep and pure stubborn hope. Be grateful for the quiet evening, the unscheduled hour, the simple luxury of a weekend that belongs to you. Because rest, it turns out, was never a weakness at all. It was the thing they were working so hard to someday afford, and you already have it.